and the numbers you see here are real numbers.
Yeah.
I'm not off very far on any of these numbers, except maybe the wages on the back page, because I don't know what the labor burden is. And when I say labor burden, I mean what it costs for bennies and all that, but I do.
Pretty close.
I think so. So, I'll start off with the water department. And they're not, I don't have them, the 1 through 7 isn't in the order that I would pick them. It's just, we can do that later, but, we need a new 1,000,000-gallon reservoir, with transmission lines and a pump station to make that work. We would put it on the hill above the industrial park. We have land set aside for that already. That would put us in compliance with the drinking water, people. We're supposed to have 3 million in reserve. We currently have 2 million, and the reason we need 3 million is in the summer months we use on the average of 1.1 to 1.2 million a day. In the event of a fire or something big, the 2 million we have would not get us through 1 or 2 days, you know. 3 million is, for our population, is what the state of Oregon says that we need to have. Which is, I agree.
What if we doubled our population, what we need?
What's that? I'm
What if
sorry.
we doubled our population, what we need?
Then we'd have to increase to the storage capacity.
So what would a 2 million one can cost?
Well, almost double that, but it wouldn't be quite double because, and I haven't checked into that, so I don't know. It wouldn't be double because they would already be there on site doing whatever, and it would just be enlarged. It would either go up. Most 1,000,000-gallon tanks are about 32 foot high by 60 feet wide. That's the typical the way they design them. And we have 2 of them in place right now that are pretty much the same dimensions. They would probably just go a little taller, increase the capacity. We originally were going to put a 3 million up where we put the last 1 million. But that went by the wayside. We didn't have the funds to do it in this last little water project that we did. Which that would have been great because then we'd have 4 million in reserve. Which sounds like a lot of water, but when you're using 1,000,000 gallons a day, just on typical household use, that's a lot of water. It didn't last very long in the event of some sort of an emergency. Maybe a big fire or something like that.
And we can pay for this at current water rates?
Well, no. You're gonna have to come up with, in order to make any of this happen, you're gonna have to have a funding source, and unfortunately, that's what we're here for, is to see where we have to go with this. And some of this is actually, it has to happen, or we're gonna be a creek.
What's the combined water sewer rates now here in Oakridge? Do we know it?
About $70.
60,
Yeah. close to
Yeah.
60.
right under
58,
60.
about 58, 38, isn't it?
Yeah.
I think that USDA, the last I heard, was like $87.
Yeah, well, we're way low. I mean, not, to talk to some people, we're way high, but they don't really know what they're
Right,
talking about.
right. If
Well,
Well, for fairness, when some folks say way high, they're looking at what their incomes are.
Exactly. No, I mean, but as I'm saying, as a national average,
Yeah.
we're low.
Right.
Well, and, council probably knows this, I know that the Public Works Director knows this, is that if you use USDA rural development money, they're gonna set your minimums.
They're gonna tell you what you have to do.
Yeah, you don't have a choice.
Yep.
Yeah, so, I mean, that's just something that,
That's why we're up to what we're up to now.
yeah, I suspect when you do the sewer treatment plant, they probably have to.
Well, we just did a $3 increase.
Project.
Oh,
And,
wow.
yeah,
Okay.
What, 3.5?
3.5 million. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so, well, that's something that, obviously it was identified as a serious shortfall, so it's something that we need to incorporate in the strategic plan.
That's the thing, a lot of misperception a lot of people have in town, they think the water department's a cash cow. And we're being told what to do there.
Yeah.
Oh, exactly.
Because I remember when I chaired the water department back in the 90s, they told us we were 120% undervalued, and we were not eligible for any monies to do anything unless we increased our rates.
Yeah, that's a real nail biter for city councils all over the state, because you're not gonna be popular raising people's rates where everybody has to have it.
Well, to me, our problem is that we haven't put in an inflationary increase in our water rates every year, and so we end up not doing anything for 4 or 5 years, and had to come up with a large rate, and everybody starts screaming about it. You know, I think that it ought to have an inflationary increase from year to year. You don't have that problem down the road.
Well, with this too, with the water especially, 1 and 2 come in under what we talked about with the canal.
Exactly.
So that eliminates that problem right there.
And number 2 being the new production well, and we would want at least 500 GPM, that's gallons per minute. And we would multitask that well, we would use that to keep the fire ponds at the levels that need to be kept at the industrial park, which would serve a multitude of things for us, because that would give us adequate fire protection at the industrial site, which we don't have right now.
Ah, okay, that's one of our weaknesses then.
Oh, that's a big issue,
Yeah.
because the fire, the demands, and Leo will be able to talk more about that, but it's amazing the flows that they require for certain size structures. And right now, we don't have that. So this would help, the well and the reservoir placed where we would like to place it would really improve the, for us bringing people in.
We really couldn't handle very many more people the way our town's set up right now.
No,
Our
we couldn't.
infrastructure.
Exactly.
And we
Well, I
certainly
don't
can't
see
handle
it here.
very much business.
What I don't see in our stuff is this, didn't we talk about once to have an increase of the size of the water main?
The mains, when I put down, the required piping, we would wanna definitely loop that into the well field that we have now, depending on where the new well would end up, which would require a geological, survey study. And they're talking maybe across the river from where we are now, across Salmon Creek, in that area on the lower side of the industrial park. The geological studies that's been done in the past indicate that that would be maybe a good water source right in there. And so that would be a benefit, because then we could pump directly up to the new reservoir. And we would still want to run a line across to loop the system, a 10 or 12.
Is that an additional cost that is not captured in your estimates there?
Well, it's hard to come up with that
Sure,
exact cost, because we don't know where the well's gonna be.
Right.
And I didn't get into a lot of that, but that would be an additional cost, yes.
Okay.
You would have to add some more to that.
Okay, so,
To be required, right?
If we had to, we had talked about using the railroad trestle that we have now that crosses Salmon Creek as a place to hang the pipe and go across Little Texas and down Jasper Drive and tie it back into the existing well field.
Yeah.
When I say Little Texas, we're talking about the land that's at the end of Jasper Drive
Yeah.
and the end of Hill Street out there. It kind of resembles the shape of Texas, so we've always called it Little Texas.
So that new production well with required piping, that 650,000, that's,
Well, when I say required piping, that is to put it locally, like over around the industrial park, and then laying a line from the well to the reservoir.
We have to move the chlorinators then?
We would definitely have to chlorinate this water if it was gonna be potable water, yeah. And,
Do it up there at the tank then?
well, then, we would design that one. The tank would then become the chlorine contact chamber, because we would lay one line up, and maybe even a separate line. The way our system is set up right now, we have one line goes to the tank, and it also feeds the system, so the tank can't be used as the contact chamber. If you have two lines to your tank, then the tank becomes your contact chamber. In other words, you pump to the tank, and then the separate line takes it out of the tank and distributes it to the system. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Had a long chat with Kevin over it.
Yeah, okay. And so, that's what I'd like to see, but, if we can't do that, then we'll have to have some detention time. And chlorine contact chambers can be designed in a multitude of ways, like the one we have now is a set of pipes that are underground, 30-inch pipe. We got 300 foot of pipe in there, and it takes 12.2 minutes for the water to get through there. And we're required to have like 11.6 minutes of detention time, so we got enough to do it. So there's several ways of doing the chlorine, but we would have to do it, yes. The state would make us do it.
Can you lay both pipes in the same trench, or?
If we, well, yeah, we could do
Little
that,
spaces.
yes. If we could use, if the well were to be drilled near the existing well field, if that were the desirable location, after the geological survey, then we could use the existing chlorine contact chamber. And then what we would do is put a pipe across, we'd still put the same pipe across the trestle and up to the new reservoir. But it would be, the chlorine contact would still be where it's at right now.
Would still taste bad.
To some people.
I bought it.
The preferred way, though, would be the double piping thing.
That would be the preferred way, yeah.
I'm up for
And
that.
then that, there again, when we start, penciling it in, that's where we get into the actual cost involved. We're looking at a couple $1 million to do that,
Candace,
which
it
sounds
comes
like a
down
lot,
to
but
dig
it's
that
really
hole.
not. Huh?
He
Should
says
come down
I'll
and
come help
dig
you
that
dig the
hole.
hole.
Yeah, Public Works will do a lot of that. And then I have rehab wells, the existing wells that we have, 1, 2, 4, and 6. And when I say rehab, what you do there is, when the last time we had a well drilled was in 1982. So, do the math, it's 31 years ago.
Can I ask a question? I
Sure.
don't want to cut you off here.
Nope.
Do you do you want to go through each one of these individually, or sort of dealing at this point in an aggregate sense?
Honestly, cut me off, see?
I'm sorry.
No, I understand. It could take a while.
Yeah, I just noticed we're.
This could get into depth. I mean, there's a lot of money here, but,
But it's
Replace
council's.
and upgrade about 300 or 3,000 feet of 2-inch rusted out water line.
see, I'm talking about now and within the next 5 years. I mean, there's lots more that we need to do, but right now, I would just say, let's do, this 3,000 foot of 2-inch water line.
Is that on private property? or
No,
is that
that's,
public property?
that's on
Under
city
streets?
right of ways. One of them is over on Highway 58 from Don's Truck Stop, well, from, from the, what do they call them, Killicuddy's? No, not Killicuddy's, what is it? Mercantile. From the Mercantile back down to Gale Street and Orange Street area, across from the old Hancock Service Station. That chunk is real bad, so I need a new one there.
2 inch?
It's 2 inch, yeah. But I would upgrade the size on that side of the highway so that we can put in a couple fire hydrants. But that's the size that needs to be replaced. I would go with at least a 4 inch. The cost of the trench is where it's at, it's not in the pipe. So, you need to decide what size pipe you wanna put in there, because it costs the same to dig it.
Why we wouldn't put a larger pipe in? Why wouldn't we?
We would, definitely. I'm just replacing the 2 inch, we could do it with a 4 or a 6. See what I'm saying?
Actually, Ed was saying, when we had the city engineer, he was here
Yep.
not too long ago, he was saying there's actually a lot of money available through grants for infrastructure, piping,
Oh,
especially
definitely.
potable water,
Well, because of the DEQ being there on the list, that moves Oakridge up to
It definitely does.
eligibility for some grants, yeah, for more grants. You get more grants under this circumstance, once DEQ lists that, you're gonna get loans is all you're gonna get. Yeah, so. You're in the right position.
So, do you want me to continue?
I didn't want to cut you off, I want you to go through it, I just didn't want to know whether or not the council wanted to go through line item by line item.
I think some of this is pretty self-explanatory.
It is.
If the council has any questions on any of it.
I think we all have copies, I agree.
Okay.
I had a couple of questions on, and I'll get it
Not
out.
that we don't wanna hear from you.
No, I'm all
I mean,
for
we're
it.
never gonna see you and.
Well, have you looked at any of the funding on any of this, as far as how much you think, how much, what percentage you think the city's gonna pay for it, would pay for it, and how
Well,
much?
Right now, we're working on, the engineer, who is Kernan McLeod, they feel that it's a real good possibility that most of the stuff on the water department, there's a possibility we'd get money from the state because of the recent inspection that I've had on our system. I mean, we passed our inspection, but we have some deficiencies, and he's telling me that there's a possibility that there is funding available for, and what kind of match it would be, I don't know, or what kind of a payback it would be. There's definitely funding. On the sewer, there's all kinds of grants out there available, like he said, DEQ, and we're gonna run into that situation with the I&I. If we don't do something with it, we're gonna be forced into it.
Well, if we were doing a lot of the I&I on the sewer, I mean, there's a shared trench detail from the state on,
There's funding available, yes.
well, I mean, as far as, you know, if we can get funding for the I&I and not as much funding for the water line, using a shared trench detail where we could run water and sewer in the same trench and get this trench dug.
Well, most of the time, there has to be a 10-foot separation, in the main, in big sizes, in your building, water and sewer lines, like your house stuff, your 3/4 inch, service lines and your 4-inch, service mains for your laterals for your houses can go in the same trench if they're compatible pipes and different things. In the in the potable water and in the water industry, in the distribution codes, AWWA says there needs to be a 10-foot separation, and you have to use, if you cross under or over water and sewer, then the pipes have to be ductile iron or something of that nature. In other words, you can't just slap two pieces of PVC in there. It's gotta be 10 foot each side of ductile iron, with the proper joint.
How deep is our sewer lines for the most part?
Most of our sewers average anywhere from 6 to 12 feet. There's some less and some more. I have them as deep as, 15, 16 feet, but not very many of those. And when we could share a trench, we would definitely do that.
I was thinking that the water department wouldn't have to pay for the water, why they did that. That's nuts and bolts stuff, never mind, you take care of that,
But, it's a good point though. Yeah, if you can put it all in the same trench, we do that a lot of times. If the water is above the sewer, there's lots of ways to do certain things,
Like I said, pipe doesn't cost much.
Because we're gonna run into the same thing with the storm. If you go to page 2, the stormwater in the street department, nowadays, we're gonna have stormwater quality, number 2. We're finally to the population and the way DEQ is doing it, we're gonna have to start treating our stormwater. We just don't dump it in the river, unfortunately, that's what it's coming to. There's gonna have to be more bioswales, settling ponds, and things of that nature. On-site, you handle it on-site, in other words, dry wells. It's hard nowadays, you can't get a permit hardly to put a drain line into the river without going through, these procedures. Bioswales, and that's where the water lays in there, evaporates and percolates and does all that kind of stuff. You plant different types of plants that absorb, it's a huge. Kevin and I went to a seminar in Las Vegas. Let's don't go yet. But it is a big deal nowadays. You don't just dump water in the river, And have you ever been over to the covered bridge in Westford? That big hole out in the middle?
Swell, yeah.
You know what that is? That's what that's for. The drain water goes into that, settles out, all the undesirables settle out in the bottom of that. The water rises in this pit to the top of the pipe that they have in there before it ever goes into the creek. That's what I'm talking about, those types of things. And if you go over around the bend area, as an example, you see them everywhere.
Yeah, you deal with that, city,
Yeah.
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 They're 5 inches of rain a year, yeah.
Yeah, a little
But,
different.
you know, you see what I mean, that's what they're doing, and we're gonna be required to do that.
Question, on number 3 in the street department, where you got $85,000 for tipper and shipping truck with
Yep.
a box and boom bucket. I'm not sure what kind of truck you're looking at there, but
Well-
what's the boom bucket for?
Well, when you see most shipping outfits come to town, private, Lane Electric or whatever, the truck that they have pulling the chipper
Mhm.
is a box truck, as well as it has a boom on it, with a bucket on the end of the boom, so that they can prune, trees up in the air. And in our case, instead of just investing in a truck that would be strictly for chipping,
Trailering.
I would want it to do other things, because every year I rent boom lifts to put up Christmas decorations, and I rent them to change bulbs, and I rent them to, we could use this truck for it would be a multitasking truck. Plus, we could use it for trimming the trees and there's grants and stuff out there available for that sort of thing.
So,
If,
well, Stan, so as we go through this process, that's gonna be one of the pieces that should filter out.
Yeah.
Right,
Some of
right.
the funding
Right.
sources.
Yeah.
Yeah.
but that's why, Jerry, that I would go with the truck with a boom on it and a bucket on the boom.
Well, I'm glad that Public Works is a cash cow, as I heard the word. $6.5 million for
There is.
done.
It has the other way around, they eat cash.
But you know what, though, in this world, that's not very much.
Oh, I know that.
It doesn't go very far, unfortunately, just like the
It's just
streets,
kind of scary.
we need lots more than what I've got down here
Oh,
for streets.
absolutely.
That's just talking the next, because we're gonna do 95,000 on Garden Road, and we're talking 500 foot of
Yeah,
pavement and some curb and gutter.
yeah.
So that's just the first year. Year number 2, if you do that much street or double that much street, we're talking 150,000.
That's assuming petroleum doesn't go up to $5
That,
a gallon.
and that plays a big part in what it's gonna cost us. So,
The other thing, Chuck, that, before we get you off here, do you want to address the personnel stuff?
okay, the personnel stuff is important. And this is where my numbers are maybe not as accurate as they could be, but I don't think I'm off real far.
Yeah, go on for number 1, put that at about 101.
Well, and I was saying 75 and then plus Benny's, so that would
Wait,
make it.
101 would be plus pennies.
Okay. I didn't really have that information available, but we definitely need a public works / director, planner, and somebody with engineering background like Kevin. Kevin was a big loss to the city of Oakridge.
Yeah.
I don't know if anybody knows that, but he was. He had all of those qualities. He was a, planner by trade, He was also worked for several engineering firms, so he had engineering background, which is a big plus. And that's what we need, somebody just like that, in public works. Because there's a lot to running public works.
Do you think you could get that for 101,000?
Probably not. I'm trying to make it look good here. When I read ads that come across my desk all the time for other cities that are looking for public works directors and things of that nature, it's a lot more than
Yeah.
75.
Yeah, you may not get a PE, you may not get a professional engineer, you may get somebody that's engineered.
Well, that's why I said engineering background, like he was. If you get somebody that's got a stamp, oh yeah,
Chuck's
you're-
wife,
And now, the second thing there is I need to increase we went from a crew of 10 to a crew of 3.5.
Oh, jeez, okay.
And that includes I'm talking, including the director. So, we need at least one right away, and Louis working on that. And I think that's about to happen. And then I suggest that we have one more each year for the next couple of years. And that'll get us back, and if we add the director of public works in there in the next couple of years, we'll be back to,
That ain't happening.
well, I'm just telling you that's, those are some things we need.
And I can tell you with the dollars and without increases in your water and sewer, it ain't happening.
That could also be one of our weaknesses.
But that's why we're here, isn't it, to
Yes.
talk about it? I mean, we already know we're gonna have to do something with the rates in order to make any of this.
Brianna, make your
That
case.
also should be one of our weaknesses because of our economy and where we're at. We don't have enough employees to do the everyday
Correct.
stuff, much less to do any extras.
Absolutely.
So that needs to be put on the weakness, in my way of thinking.
I mean, we've been getting by,
Support your-
but there are things that are going by the wayside
Yeah.
that are gonna catch up with us if we don't, you know, if we don't get going.
I'm not saying we can't get here, I'm just saying I don't think we can do it in 2 years.
And maybe not. I'm
That's
just
all I'm
saying that
saying.
within the next 5, I would like to see the director. I
Yeah,
mean,
we can-
right now, between you and I and Jackie and
And Ed.
and Ed and Susie, I think we can make it happen. But we are, you know, there's some things that are
It's a
going
struggle.
down, you know, yeah, it's a struggle.
That leads you
Louis
back
might
to
be
another
younger
threat
either.
then.
And neither am I.
The threat being that if you focus everything on tourism in this town, you're not gonna generate the economic base to
Well,
support.
I mean, yeah, Willella County is our classic example,
Yeah.
right? Boom and bust, 6-month economy.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, you
Yeah.
can't focus that here, that's not gonna get us out of and get us the infrastructure and the dollars needed. It has to be year-round economics, some kind of businesses that can generate and will be spending money year-round,
Right.
not just passing through town.
And I
Because
hope,
it would be nice if tourism would be
oh, yeah.
something we could focus on to fix this, but it just, the dollar amounts and what we're seeing needs to be done, it's not gonna do it.
We need an income source. That's just the way it is, you know.
Okay.
And unfortunately, what do we have to pick from? Rates right now. And, you know, nobody wants to hear that, but.
All right, Carl.
Who's the next?
Jerry, did you have anything written up like everybody else did?
No, but because I didn't know they were gonna do that, but I can certainly address.
Yeah, I'm confident that you guys.
Okay.
The two of us, we should be able to cover it.
Yeah.
If I miss it, you go ahead
Okay.
and fill in.
And I assume fire and EMS are together, right?
Yeah.